Hello and welcome back to Planet Coaster. I'm your host, Brothgar, and today I have another tutorial for you. Today we're going to be covering the entertaining aspect of having like low supports or low scenery on your ride that causes people to fear and duck for their lives, so that they don't lose their hands. I don't know if you've ever been on a wooden roller coaster, but every once in a while they have those really low supports that you always kind of fear putting your hands high up in the air. Alright, so here is the static test that I've set up today. Now this is all testing the idea of how much scenery can you put over a roller coaster, how far away does it have to be, and what kind of benefits can you actually get from doing this. Now one of the cool things I will mention about this is that you can add this scenery to an existing roller coaster and it will affect that roller coaster's ratings without having to close it down. So this is something you can actually modify on a roller coaster that may be a little bit less exciting and you just want to add to it, but you already have people on it so you don't want to shut it down. You can actually do that. That's a cool thing about this. So my static test right here has an excitement rating of 4.5 with a fear rating of 3.88. Now if I go on over here, you'll see that there is a piece of wood, and this piece of wood is floating just over the track right here. Now if I were to pause this, you'd get an idea of just how far away you can put a piece of scenery. So here we go, let me pause this. And this is the limit that I was able to find of just how far away you can put a piece of scenery. You can see it's a little bit over about twice as tall as the roller coaster and over the very center of the roller coaster in its current path right there. So in this case, if this was to be a little bit over to the left of the screen right now, it wouldn't count at all. But the difference it made right here is it jumped from, remember, 4.5 up to 4.84. So that was actually a pretty good gain in excitement for only 0.08 of fear right there. So that's pretty cool. Now in this roller coaster over here, I've gone ahead and put some stuff on the side to see if that would have an effect. I also put a tree over the top, and as we can see here, the testing results here were no different than my static test. Now, this is kind of a weird thing when it comes to this trees. I'm guessing each piece of scenery is going to be different, and this tree happens to have an effect. If you were to place this tree on the opposite side of it, it would actually affect the ride here. So let me just go ahead and run it real quick. So remember I was 4.5 and now we're seeing this going to jump up to the 3.86 with 3.88. If I'd get rid of this piece and let it run around one more time, you'll see that that should have absolutely no effect on the results at all. For some odd reason, some pieces of scenery seem to have, their boundaries are different, even though they physically might look one way or another. But a tree is a really easy thing you can throw, and that might have that effect to you, as long as it can cover the top of the ride right there. So in this case, this one over here, if we take a look real quick on what's actually happening here, you can see the excitement rating is 3.74. If we just see it in live data, and we'll slow it down here. Look at the excitement rating, it's 3.81, and as we just progress a little bit, and then progress, it's 3.7. And then suddenly as it goes underneath this, boom, it jumped up to around just about 5. And it continues to go up for a short amount of time as the roller coaster goes underneath it. And not until it's actually well beyond that does it start going back down, and then we get into the corner itself. So what you have here is you have this area that you've scared somebody, and then there's that residual effect of that excitement over probably about a length and a half of the roller coaster as it dips away. So what happens down here is when you put in a lot of these, you're creating that same effect over and over and over again. What we've done is we actually be able to pump this up to 5.24. Now the thing is, we also increase the fear quite a bit. As you add more pieces of scenery that are causing people to duck down like this, you kind of reach a point where it doesn't become more exciting for the person as much as it just becomes like a fear effect. So you can definitely spam this, but you are going to affect your fear more significantly just because you're scaring somebody in a corner that's already kind of a high fear area right there. The other thing I wanted to mention right here is that this area right here, this place where I've put in several pieces of scenery right next to each other, these airlocks, this all counts as one duck. So if I were to actually delete these, we saw the scenery rating, the excitement rating of 5.24, and watch what happens when this goes through again. We should actually see this increase because they're separated. So they count as separate elements. So here we go, we're gonna end up, and it went up to 5.31, all by separating these pieces of scenery. So it does count for a tunnel, but a tunnel would count as one duck area as opposed to having these 3 duck areas, which then increases your excitement rating that much more. Now again, it seems to have a less of an effect if we were to just kind of put a few of these on there and maybe space them out more intelligently like this, so it covers just the more important areas of the track, and we should be able to get a higher excitement rating, but with the fear rating going down quite a bit right there. So that's what I'm talking about, that cumulative effect. As you cause more and more of those ducking zones, your excitement rating doesn't really go up that much more, but your fear will increase. So the other thing I wanted to test here was when a roller coaster goes under its own track. So in this case, this roller coaster is going under its own piece of track. This is included in it. And what you can see here is the excitement rating does go up. So we have a 4.8 and a 3.89. So it's very similar to just going under a piece of scenery, even though it is its own piece of track. Now what we also have going on over here is a wooden roller coaster. Wooden roller coasters have very large supports that you can then travel under, and that will cause people to duck as well. So in this case, we have another roller coaster. This has a 4.92 excitement rating, and this one here is, guess, the same, the 4.92. So I have the track supports turned off for this roller coaster that's above it. But let me go ahead and edit this track, and I'm going to turn the supports back on for the entire thing right there. You saw how I just dragged that across itself. It's kind of a good way to affect the entire roller coaster. And what happens is this roller coaster down here is now traveling under low-hanging support, so it will start to get that duck rating from the roller coaster being built above it. So one roller coaster that's been built above it suddenly went up by quite a bit right there. So we now have a 5.26 excitement rating just by building another roller coaster or another ride above the other one. So even though it is in its own piece of track, and it's actually another roller coaster that it's then passing under, that also affects it as well. So no matter what you're doing, you can affect the rating, excitement rating, and fear rating of your roller coaster by just placing scenery or rides that are close to the roller coaster that it's traveling over. Does that make sense? It's pretty straightforward, right? You put stuff above the track and then it happens. Now, the other thing I wanted to test here was during a bank. Sometimes I thought potentially that zone where you're actually banking, and if you were thinking about where we're actually going to place that scenery, I was thinking maybe it's just a blade above it, or maybe it's just like an area of the roller coaster above it, and it seems like it's just an area of the roller coaster above it when it goes into banking. So that's what happened right here. I was able to place this down, and that's kind of the more or less the linear limit based on where that roller coaster is to where that scenery needs to be in order to cause that excitement rating or that duck to happen. So you can see here, if we're actually looking at the roller coaster straight on based on its 45-degree angle, it's still barely, just barely over the top of the roller coaster, which is an important aspect. You gotta have it be over the heads, at least a little bit, of the people that are riding on the roller coaster in order to have that duck effect happen. So let me go ahead and just head on over here to one of my other roller coasters that I've designed previously. It was the last one I designed. Whoops. Okay, camera. All right, so for one last test right here, I have my previous ride that I just made, the Orion 8, which is a sci-fi themed roller coaster, and I know this has a rating of 8.02. Now, if I go into scenery, let's go ahead and just do this test for the real time. We're just gonna end up going down. I'm gonna use some sour strips because it makes sense. And I'm just gonna start adding some of those head ducking spots to this roller coaster. So I'll place it here, maybe just right around here. Not a big deal, right? Just a few spots right off the bat. And what we can see is that the rating here should increase the next time a roller coaster goes through this. It's going to take a little bit of time for it to run its full path, but there should be about 3 ducking zones that you're seeing right here at the very beginning, and that should increase the excitement rating a little bit. Now, in the grand scheme of things, this is a very large roller coaster, and everything's averaged at the end of the ride, but it should make a little bit of a difference. So we're at 5.22, and now we've jumped up to 5.34, and then an 8.16. So it did make a little bit of difference, not a huge amount of difference in a large ride. But if you're just trying to get from, let's say, a 6.8 to a 7, and you wanted to add a little bit of scenery to it, I mean, that's a good way to do it. All right, so what have we learned here? Well, adding duck points to your roller coaster does have an effect on your excitement rating as well as your fear rating as well. So that's a good way if you want to get that excitement rating up to the next level. If you're really close, you can go ahead and add that. It's also a very effective way to use scenery to not only increase your scenery rating, but also increase your excitement rating at the same time. So there you have it, guys. That is the duck points right there. Now I want to go ahead and say thank you to Vala right here, because this comment is what sparked this entire tutorial. So if you have a certain thing that you want me to try or something that you want to pass along, go ahead and leave it down there in the comment section below, and just like this one, I might make it into the video in the future. At any rate, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys have found this tutorial somewhat informative or enjoyable, and if you did, maybe leave a like on the way out. If I've earned your subscription, then thank you so much for that. I'll see you guys next time. Stay awesome. Peace. Brothgar out.